Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey with Real Music. Hope you're doing okay wherever you are today. It's time to sit back and relax, pull up a chair, and recline and listen to a cool podcast. Got a great interview. Got Richard T. Bear here today, the amazing keyboardist, singer, songwriter that you might know. We talk about some interesting stories. Now, he played the keyboard, piano on a couple of albums you might know in the 70s from a couple of guys named Peter Criss and Gene Simmons of Kiss. Yeah, their solo albums. And a song also by Toby Bow, Angel Baby. Remember that song he plays on there? That was a popular song back in the day when I was a little kid. My dad used to sing it to me and my brother, and we'd learned it and sing it right back to him. Love that song. Shows you how long ago that was. And he was also the road manager for Carly Simon. Yeah, find out what happened there and some other interesting stories. You're going to find out a lot of cool, interesting things, just saying. So here we go. Here he is. Here's Richard T.
I've been
Bear.
enjoying your new album. I've been listening to it, and I noticed it's got a very retro sound to it. Did you do that on purpose? Did you say I want to
Mhm.
make this album sound like it
I
was
don't
from
know
the
if you
70s?
I don't know if you heard the album before this. Um, this one.
I hadn't heard it. Okay, I haven't heard that one.
Okay. Well, there was one that I put out before this called Fresh Bear Tracks. And to answer your question, I have to start with that one, if that's okay with you.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
I had been a session musician and a singer-songwriter in the past, many years in the past, and played with lots of people. It's on my bio, and made a lot of different records. Some you might know, some maybe that you don't. I did solo albums for RCA and a German company called Teldec, Telefunken, and wrote with different people and had a pretty good run of it. Had a pretty big hit in the world dance charts. And had a really good living, and then met a woman, fell in love, got married, started having kids, and she said to me, no more touring. You've had your life. Now it's time to raise the kids. So no more touring, no more gigs, no more any of that. She said, you can go play the odd session once in a while because that brings in income. And I said, okay.
Right.
And I worked at a light bulb company. I got a job there. And stayed at that company for 5 years, went out and sold light bulbs daily. And after having kids, and that marriage lasted about 20 years, we got divorced. Soon after, met a woman who said, I know who you are. I know what records you played on. I know a lot about you because my ex played guitar in your band years ago. And I went, wow.
Oh, wow.
And I said, okay. So she and I started dating. We fell for each other. We moved in together. She said, I will, I will go out with you. I will date you. I will, even live with you because you're the only musician I know with a day job. So I said, okay. And have the lighting, and I opened my own lighting company. That being said, Bear Lighting, how original. And
Cool.
yeah. And so her name was Nina. And I don't know. We got married, and then a few years later, she said to me, she started nagging me actually. She said, you need to play music again. It is going to be good for your soul. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be great for us because I want to hear your music. And I said, okay. And I kind of put it on the back burner, but then she kind of pushed me a little further, a little harder. She went back to school to get her college degree. And she would sit on the other side of the piano at her desk, and she'd say, come on, play me a song while I'm doing my homework. And I'd sit down and play, and she'd go, "Oh, that's really great. Try to write one now." And she was a real cheerleader. She was really, gave me a massive shove. And I started writing songs, and she'd go, "Oh, that's a good hook. I like that. That's a good musical hook. And that line is a great hook." I'd say, "Oh, okay." And I would do that. And then one day I got called to play a session over at Robbie Krieger's studio. Robbie Krieger was the guitar player in the Doors. And I was over there and playing the session, and Robbie walked over to me and she said, "Hey, man, what's the deal? You're not going to make records anymore?" I said, "No, I just, I don't know what to do. He said, "I'll tell you what, I want you to make a record here." I said, "Look, I'm not signed to a label anymore. I don't have deep pockets. I can't afford this studio to make a record." He said, "I got a better idea for you." I said, "What's that?" He says, "I'll give you the studio. You pay the engineer for as long as it takes to make the record. I don't care how long it takes. Just make a record. And one caveat, you got to let me play on it." I said,
Wow.
"Sounds good. Okay, let's do it." So in comes fresh Bear tracks, because I hadn't put anything out in 20, 25 years. All right, I'm almost finished with the album. I cut 23 tracks, 21 originals that I sat on the other side of Nina and wrote. And getting close to finishing the record, everybody in the world showed up to help me with this record. Stephen Stills, Edgar Winter, Walter Trout, Dean Parks, Tom Scott, Lawrence Juber, on and on and on and on and on. The guys from the E Street Horns, all kinds of great players are on this record. And getting finished, getting ready to kind of almost wrap it up. And we get a really bad diagnosis from her stomach ache. And it turns out she's stage 4 cancer and has 4 months to live. And so the 4 months turned into almost a year. I took care of her, and we went through all kinds of protocols and all kinds of treatments. And I did everything I could to save her life or extend her life or be with her, do whatever I could. And she passed. And before she passed away, she wrote down a note to me, and she said, "Finish the record, never cancel another gig, go out on tour, live your best life, fall in love again."
Wow.
And so the last song on this album is called Nina's Song. And they play it almost every day on Paris radio because it's such a sentimental and beautiful song. The album is dedicated to her. I wouldn't have an album if it wasn't for her. I wouldn't have The Way of the World if it wasn't for her. So that's how I get to that album. Now, Fresh Bear Tracks was cut at Robbie Krieger's studio, and it was also cut at Ultratone, and I did a track at the one that Robbie plays on called Wonderland, which was a place in Laurel Canyon. And I did it over at J.J. Blair's studio, Fox Force 5. It's a really great studio. And all of a sudden, I got a record deal. I got people knocking on my doors. They heard about the record. I had a great live band, 10 pieces, just monster band, with horns and everything. And really big, great rock and soul band. And then COVID hit. Nina passed, COVID hit. It went to number one over in Europe. The single did in the Netherlands, and it was a song called "Give It Up." And Stephen Stills and I wrote it, and Stephen played guitar on it, and he traded licks with Walter Trout. So the both of them are playing on it. It goes to number one. The record company, probably lost their shirt because of COVID, and I couldn't go out and tour or do anything. but they thought a lot of me, and they said, "What are you doing now during the COVID time?" And I said, "Well, um, I'm going to write a lot of songs." And so I started writing songs, and I started writing treatments for screenplays and short stories, and because I these years I do the lyrics first, and then I put the music to it, and so when it came time to talk to the guy that produced Fresh Bear Tracks, Tony Bronigal, who's a really good drummer and a great blues producer. I started sending him songs, and he went, "Oh, these are really good." And Lawrence Juber, who was a guitar player in Wings, do you know Lawrence at all?
Yes, I've heard him.
Yeah, Lawrence, monster guitar player. Um, he and I go back 40 years.
Wow.
We had a band while he was in Wings, and and, and it was a really good little band. It had Steve Holly and him and a bass player. Steve Holly was also in Wings, and Paul was really McCartney was really interested in the band, and he'd have me up to his office and talk about things and whatnot over in London because we recorded in London. And
Right.
so Lawrence and I go back a long ways, and we love each other. And we're real family. I was with him when he met his wife. The moment he met his wife Hope, so I know them both for 40 years.
Right.
And Lawrence, plays in my live band. So does Tony. And I started playing them the songs, and they went, "Oh, this is great." And Lawrence would say, "Come on over. Let's just put a piano track down with a click." And I go over to his house, and I'd drag my Nord down there or use his keyboard, and I'd put it down. I'd sing along with it, kind of live to a click, and we get it. We put it into Pro Tools, and then a day later, Lawrence would send me something by email, and he said, "What do you think of the guitar on this?" And he'd play a guitar on this, and I said, "Oh, that's really good." And then Tony would say, "Send it over to my house. I'm gonna put some drums on it." Send it over to his house, put some drums on it, and it sounded pretty good. I said, "This is not a bad way to work. Let's continue." So we did it that way inside our houses. We didn't go into any studios, with the exception at the very end with a song called Jewel and a song called Breathe. I cut those live at J.J. Blair's because he had a grand piano, and I wanted to put a real, grand piano on it. And I sang, live to it. And the retro thing is really because, I love certain things that are retro. And I just think that particular sound and that genre is
Yeah.
so cool that when you
Yes.
get, songs that are worthy of those kind of instrumentation and that kind of production, it makes it really authentic. It makes it really genuine. And you're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. You're saying, "This is the way I play. This is the way I want it to sound. And God, I hope you like it, because we've loved it all our lives." So
Sure.
yeah. So the way of the world is kind of an homage to that. And we used a lot of those kind of instruments on it. And if you pick apart the tracks, the way of the world is an homage to probably Bob Dylan and the way he writes
I
his
can hear
lyrics.
that. Yeah.
And then Jewel is an homage to the guy that I followed my entire life, Leon Russell, who I thought was, if you're going to follow somebody, follow somebody like Leon. It was Leon and Mac Rabenak were my two major inspirations. And then when I lived in Europe and lived in England, it was Nicky Hopkins. So those guys were my, and I still get session work because I can play like Nicky Hopkins and those guys. So Yeah, so I look at, and then I look at Before the Fall. Okay, who would that be an homage to? Perhaps Brian Wilson, Mozart, and Amy Winehouse. You know, mashing
Very good.
those together.
Very good.
A change would do me good. You know, Bo Diddley.
Yeah, it's got the little, the Bo Diddley thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear some Tom Petty in there, some Tom Petty and maybe Dire Straits or something. That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah. Because I'm a Knopfler fanatic. Totally. And I love Petty. In fact, on the Fresh Bear Tract album and on this album, Bent Montench plays Hammond, and
Oh, wow.
he's in the Heartbreakers. Okay,
That's right. I love him. Love him.
yeah, and so did Mike Finnegan, the late Mike Finnegan. He played some Hammond too. I played his a lot. I played Hammond a lot. I play in Walter Trout's band, and I've been on tour with him for a year, so I play that a lot. Let's see, This Bird Has Flown would be my homage to the Beatles because of that one line, This Bird Has Flown.
Yeah.
And
I love that song.
yeah, that came out really, really well. They Can Kill You. That goes back to like, God, Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, give me
Yeah.
give me a few steps to the door.
Right.
Dinner for One would be an homage to the Buena Vista Social Club in Cuba, because I wanted to write
Cool.
a romantic, old style, retro love song, about a guy whose woman is not coming back. We don't know what happened to her, and he he makes this amazing dinner, but it's only for him. And he dresses up and uses all, everything.
Right.
Okay, then we got like maybe True Romance. I wanted to write for somebody's wedding, because I wanted it's a love song. It's something that I would want to sing for someone's wedding. And then the bonus track on it is Red Harvest, and there's a good story about Red Harvest. Red Harvest is when it was the week that Russia invaded the Ukraine, and I saw that on CNN, and I was looking, and I was just mortified by what was going on over there. And I saw the women leaving their men and sons to fight this war because they weren't allowed to leave the country. But the women and the children were leaving in mass exodus on trains, on buses, bicycles, cars, horses, whatever they could get out and get to the Polish border. And I saw this, and I again, I write stories and lyrics, so I started writing the story of Red Harvest. And because the country Ukraine is kind of a breadbasket country, it's an agricultural country, and they supply food to the world over there. And I thought to myself, this is not going to be a normal harvest this year. It's going to be a red harvest. And so I sent a message over to the guy that owns the record company, Bruce Quarto, and I said, hey, I would like to record this, and I would like to have you guys put it out, and I would like there to be a link on it in the YouTube video, or however we put it out, to the Ukrainian Red Cross and to the World Kitchen, who are feeding everybody there at that point. And it's those workers that just got killed in the Gaza from the World Kitchen. And so this was 2 years ago, and Bruce said, let me think about this, but I think it's a really good idea, but we have to do it fast. So I said, okay. So I called Lawrence Juber, Tony Bronicle, who I know I can depend on really quickly, and Lawrence's studio. And then I called a
Right.
friend of mine who's he's a label mate of mine in a band called The Immediate Family, Lee Sklar, who's a good old friend of mine. And I called Leland and I said, hey, I need to put a bass on this. He said, I'll be right over. It was like that. And
Right.
I got a Ukrainian violinist, and then I got somebody else. And I said, who can I get to sing this thing with me or sing it themselves? And I called David Crosby up. And you
Perfect.
see, I used to play with Stephen Stills in his band. And then I also played keyboards in CSNN. I did Southern Cross with them. I
That's
played
awesome.
the keys on that. And David and
So
I
cool.
and his wife Jan were friends, and I lived with Stephen for a while. And I called him up. I said, "Hey man, this is what's happening. Can you help me out?" He said, "All right, send me the track. Let me listen to it. Let me think about it." I sent it to him. Next day, nothing. Crickets. Day after that, crickets. And I call him up and I said, "Come on, man, we got to get this thing out. What's going on?" He says, "I'm really busy right now." I said, "Well, yeah, people are dying. We got to help these people. We got to get this thing out there." And so he said, "All right, give me about a week, and then I'll learn it and we'll see what we can do." I said, "Okay." Later, the next day, or that night, I can't remember, it's 2 years ago, I get a phone call from a guy that says, "Hey, my name's Paul, and I want to sing with you." And I said, "You're a lawyer. You're not a singer." I thought it was my lawyer, Paul Quinn in Florida, who's a Brit. Tell me, and I said, "Paul, what are you wanking me here? I mean, what are you taking the piss?" He says, "No, no, no. This is Paul Rogers. I want to sing with you, mate." And I went, "Paul Rogers, the Paul Rogers, the Bad Company, Free." He said, "Yeah, we were on a TV show together." I said, "Yeah, yeah, okay. You want to sing with me?" He says, "Yeah." Bruce Quarto sent the track and the lyrics to my wife, who's Ukrainian descent, and she's handed it to me, and she says, "We got to do something to help these people." So he said, "I want to sing it with you." I said, "Okay." So I sent him the thing. 2 days later, it was done. It never got as far as Crosby anymore, and God bless him. And we put it out as a, as our, trying to help the Ukrainian people. And my father was born in Warsaw, and he came from that part of the world. They were traveling from the Ukraine through Warsaw, where he was born. And so I've got roots kind of there. And so
Right.
we decided to put Red Harvest as a bonus track on the album.
It's a great song too, and
Oh,
great,
thank you.
great story behind it. It means
Thank
a
you.
lot more now.
I
But
thought you'd
yeah,
like
very
the backstory.
sure, very good, and everybody else is going to love that story too. That's awesome, man. That's really good.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, the songs, and there's a good balance of songs. It's like there's some slower songs and some that are kind of funky and bluesy, uh, and that there's horns like you're talking about. I mean, I really heard everything that you were saying about that you were thinking of. You're like, I'm going to do this kind of song. I heard the same thing in my mind. So you nailed it. What you were going for. If you wanted people to get a taste of that sound, you nailed it, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, man, yeah, I can hear that. And the songs have a good
that's what someone said to me, which was interesting. They said, when I hear these songs, I hear songs in the back of my mind that I might know, but it's not those songs. But it takes me into that. I taste
Right.
that flavor. I can taste the seasoning on that, and like
Sure.
I'll give you a little example. Okay. So I'm writing stories, right, during COVID, and short stories, because I love writing short stories. And I write one called Walter Mitty's Glasses, a short
I
story.
like that song. I like
Yeah.
the song. Yeah.
And here's the backstory. Okay, a guy walks into an antique mart, where they have lots of, little booths and things like that. They got them all over the country. And he walks in there and he's looking around and he goes from this kiosk to the next one and he goes, and this one's full of glasses, right? So he goes over there and he picks up some glasses and he puts them on and looks at them in the mirror. And he goes, nah, not these. And he goes and picks up another pair of glasses. Nah, not these. And then he moves the box and he sees a pair of glasses down there. Look a little different, but he picks it up and puts it on. And as he looks in the mirror, there's somebody else looking back at him. And it's not him, but it's somebody that's handsome and tan, and he's got nice hair, and he's looking really cool. He's got duds on and everything. Do you know the story of Walter Mitty?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I like
Walter
that
Mitty
story.
daydreams he's somebody else, right?
Right.
But when he puts
Right.
on the glasses, he becomes somebody else. And he says to the guy that runs the shop, he says, hey, where'd you get these glasses? He says, I get them in a box. There's some guy brings them in. There's always like 30, 40 glasses in a box. And I just put them out for sale. And he picks the glasses and he looks on it, and it says, written on some tape, property of Walter Mitty, on the glasses. So
Cool.
that's the story of Walter Mitty. He puts on the glasses. He sees a girl at the party. He's going to get her. She's going home with him. And
Right.
I love the 10cc reggae song. And I was born in Manhattan, New York City, and I was raised in the Caribbean. So I have all that
Cool.
flavor from the Caribbean. So I know mento, calypso, I know all that stuff, and Latin. I know salsa and, reggae and merengue and cha-cha and, tango, all that stuff. So I love that stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's why
Awesome.
it has flavors like that.
Right. And you can hear it all through the album, the
Yeah.
mixtures and even the slower stuff. Excuse me, the slower ballady stuff. And then you got the bluesy stuff going on. I mean, it's just, there's like a mix,
You want the
of
backstory of
personal
Jewel?
forward. Yeah, go ahead, because it's not about the singer Jewel, is it?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. And that's why I'm going to give you the backstory. No, it's not about the singer Jewel, but I love her. I mean, she's great.
Yeah.
And
She's
she
great.
right down the street from me, okay, not a quarter of a mile, is a karaoke bar. And if you go to YouTube and put Jewel Karaoke Bar, you will see where she went into the karaoke bar with a prosthetic nose, black hair, wig, like a paunch, an overcoat, with some supposed office workers. And when they finally talked her into getting up to sing, she sang a Jewel song. And the place went nuts. And so she sang another Jewel song. And they went, oh my God, it's like Jewel. And then she rips off the nose and all that, and it's Jewel. Now,
It is true.
in this case, I went out on a date with a girl called Julie. And I was trying to impress her because she was very LA, very kind of entertainment business person. Her boss, Lou Adler. Do you know who Lou Adler is? Lou Adler.
That sounds.
He produced Carole King's Tapestry.
Okay.
He was
Yeah.
one of the founders of A&M Records.
Okay.
He did all the Mamas and Papas hits. He did Cheech and Chong's movies. He owns a bunch of iconic places in LA. He's a big entertainment mogul, and she's worked for him for 40 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and he sits at the Laker game in the front row next to the Laker bench, and next to him, sitting right next to him, is Jack Nicholson. And they were Laker buddies for 20 years. Okay. So here's the story. I go out with Julie and I'm trying to impress her. And I'm chatting her up, this, that, and the other thing. And we were getting along. And I said to her, I said, hey, so you got any nicknames? And because she asked me, how do I want to be called? She said, you want to be called Richard T. Bear? Do you want to be called T. Bear? You know, and then we got onto her. I said, any nicknames? She goes, yeah, Jewel. I said, oh, that's a great name. How'd you get that? And she said, well, I went and delivered tickets for my boss, Lou, over to Jack Nicholson's. I drove all the way over because Lou couldn't make some games and he wanted to give Jack some extra tickets so he could give it to somebody. And Jack said to me, you know, Julie, you went all the way over town during rush hour and you brought these, and I'm never going to call you Julie again. I'm going to call you Jewel. So you're Jewel from now on. You'll always be Jewel to me. You're a Jewel. I said, oh, that's a good way to get a nickname, Jack Nicholson. I said, but you know what?
Oh,
I'm going to write you a song. And she looked at me, hand to God, and she says, you wouldn't be the first. I
oh,
went, oh, really? Really?
wow.
Yeah, wow. And I thought to myself, I might have stepped into something here. You know, I'm in trouble. I said, oh, yeah. So I'm playing along. I said, oh, great. Who wrote your song? And she says, J.D. Souther. And I went, J.D. Souther from the Eagles? That J.D. Souther, the guy writes with the Eagles and Jackson Browne and all those people? She goes, yeah, J.D. Souther. He's a really good writer in L.A. Yeah, I said, I know who he is. He's a great writer. He's got hit after hit. She goes, yeah, he wrote me a song
Right.
in his album, blah, blah, blah. And this is the title. So I listened to it, and it could have been about any girl. And maybe it didn't necessarily have to be her. And I'm going, I'm thinking, okay. So I call her up. I said, you know what? I started writing your song. And the only difference between me and J.D. Souther is you're going to know it's about you. I'm going to make sure that the lyrics in there refer to you. So,
Right.
so the first line, kind of tells it all. Are you a diamond or a precious gem? You got your nickname Jewel from your famous friend. So that's the first line that opens it up. And then on the bridge, it goes, come on, Julie, take a peek. So that's the backstory to the Jewel. She loved it.
Cool. That's cool. Well, what was the J.D. Souther song? Was it a song we would know, or
no, it's just a filler
like
on
a
his
big,
album. It wasn't like
okay,
one of his hits with the
like a
Eagles.
big hit or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say like it was Peaceful Easy Feeling or something. Yeah, like what the heck?
Exactly.
Wow, that's cool. Very cool.
I thought
well,
I thought I'd give you the backstory on that.
well, you got a lot of stories. Of course, everybody knows a lot of your backstories. As far as which I'm a big Kiss fan. I know you played on Peter Chris's song "I Can't Stop the Rain." That's his best song on that album. Just go ahead and say it. And you had a part in that, but that's a cool intro, and I've always loved that song. How did you get involved with Kiss? Because I know Gene Simmons, you played on his album too. So,
I played on
you
his,
got
and I kind of helped them ghostwrite a bit, some of their stuff. How I got involved with them was through they were managed by this guy Bill Aucoin, who we used to call Guy, who was a French Canadian guy. And one of the guys that worked up there was a guy called Sean Delaney. Sean Delaney was responsible for a lot of their stage show. the kabuki makeup, the lasers, the flash, this and that. And he wanted them to be as, I guess the best way to describe it is to be as cartoon characters that come to life. And so, I used to talk with Sean and I'd say, well, Sean, that you're making them into like this amazing brand now. I didn't even use the word brand because it wasn't a word back then. You're making them into these really, amazing rock stars that are unlike anything else that's out there. And he says, yeah, and they can continue to be rock stars for the rest of their life until they're 100 years old. I said, what? He says, yeah, because no one's going to see them age under the makeup. So I thought to myself, this guy's brilliant. I said, so what do you want to do, Sean? I mean, you're making people famous. What do you want to do? He says, well, I just want to write songs and sing. I said, all right, let's write a couple of songs. So I started writing with him, and the songs turned out really, really well. And I kind of got a record deal in those days, and I was doing well. And Gene would call me up and say, let's write together, or Peter would call me up and say, I want you to play on something. We love the way you play. And that's how it came to be. I remember Gene flying me over to London and working at Virgin Records Studios. And I was over there, and we did his album, and he was dating Cher at the time. And let's see. I was going to see if I could find that picture. It's in one of his books. I don't know if I have it handy. But there's a great picture of Gene, me and Cher together. And she said, wow, I heard you're a really good writer, and have you got anything for me? I'm doing an album, she said. And I said, yeah, I've got a really good song, which to this day critics say is her best ballad that she's ever put out, called Love and Pain. And so thanks to Gene, I started working with Cher, and thanks to Sean Delaney, I started working with Kiss. And I got a mosquito flying around here. And Kiss was kind of amazing because they started out as this little kind of heavy metal band in a station wagon, and they ended up Kiss.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you were a part of that. You were a part of that.
I was a part of that at one time. It's
cool.
amazing. I look at my life as when one door closes, something always opened, and it could have been different, very different. But to be really frank, my father owned a brassiere company. He was a garment maker, in New York City.
Awesome.
And I did not want to sell brassieres for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something my dad couldn't do. So, I played music. Yeah. And I played music since I was little. I mean, I had my first band at 12. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, going back to the Peter Criss, though, did when you playing with people like that, I know you're like a studio musician. You played with all kinds of people, like a ton of people. Do they give you opportunity to kind of do your own thing? Did they say
here's the way I think it works. Because I've been working, for example, I'll give you an example. I just worked with a guy called Jack Douglas, and Jack Douglas produced Aerosmith, John Lennon. He was with John the night he was shot. I mean, and many great Lou Reed, many great albums. and I've been working with Jack on an artist that he signed recently, and it was the same. It's the same thing as Peter. I would work on a Peter Criss session. They would play me the song. If they didn't have a chart, I would write a chart out, and then they would say we want it to have kind of an urgency, or if it was a rock song or something, or we want it to be really melodic and emphasize the words and the feeling of what Peter's trying to get out. Because Peter was a really good ballad singer. I mean, Beth, and then that. I mean, he was really good at he could sell a song, So I wanted to sell the piano. So they turned to me and they said, "Okay, let's see what you got." And I think I probably played it for a minute. They got a sound, and then they ran the tape. I laid it down. I walked into the studio to listen, and I said, "Okay, let me go out and play it again." They said, "No, no, no, no. That's the take.
Wow.
That's really good. Yeah." I said, "But I want to put this little tinkle thing on it," and they let me do that as an overdub. But that was that. And Jack's the same way. He'd go, "This is the way I see it. Play it straight this way, or play it like this." And I play it exactly the way he went. And then he'd go, "Okay, let's see what you got now." And I'd play it, and then I would play a little something here or there, not to take anything away from any of the guitar licks or the vocal, stylings that Kelly was trying to sing. And it all works. It all works really nicely. When you go in the studio as a hired gun, you have to really, really kind of listen to what the producer's really trying to get and give them that. And then, but then trust your own instincts, because I've played on a lot of records where if I would have listened to what the guy wanted me to do, the part wouldn't have been right. So,
Right.
I kind of, fudged it a little, like Lee Sklar tells the story. Leland says, "Here's my bass, right? Here's my bass, and on it, it's got this switch, and then that switch, and then it's got a switch that does nothing. It's not connected to anything." And they say, "Okay, give me a little more bottom this time." And Leland knows it's fine with what he's doing. And he goes, "Okay, hang on a second." He goes, with the non-existent switch, and then he plays it again. They go, "That's what it needed."
It's a middle thing. Yeah.
Right.
That wanted to change it. It's like Barney Fife, a little bit lower, a little bit lower.
Right.
It's perfect.
Right. Right. That's really funny. Man.
Hey, but that's how people think, though. People like to be right on everything. They like to go, "Yeah, I did this, I want it this way," but because you've been around, you're like, sometimes you just shut your mouth because they're who they are. But later you get your way and they go, "Yeah, that sounds good." Well, that's because I did it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's cool.
The song Breathe. The song
song.
Breathe. Yeah, that song Breathe, which, by the way, was covered by Walter Trout. It's on his Broken album, the new album. He recorded it as well. Cool. Breathe is what I call, and this word was given to me by a therapist who heard the song, and she said, "It's therapy." It's not therapy, it's therapy.
What's funny is I was taking notes on the songs. I was listening to each one and I was taking some notes, and I think I wrote that down somewhere, but I wrote music therapy is what I put for that song.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what I tried to get out. It was, I wrote it in like 10 minutes. I wrote Red Harvest in like
Wow.
10 minutes. I wrote Love and Pain in like 10 minutes. I wrote Breathe in like 10 minutes, because that's what we have to do sometimes. You know, when we can't see a way around things, or through it, or whatever. And sometimes you just got to breathe, because that's all you can do. You know, can't buy it, you can't fix it, you can't,
Right.
have somebody fix it for you, whatever. Sometimes you just got to breathe. So
Sure.
that's what I came up with.
Yeah.
It is
Well,
music
would you say
therapy.
that is that song? Would you say that's the most, I don't know, autobiographical song on the album? I mean, to me, it makes me think that it was coming from you. I don't know. I just felt it was something for you. You know, like I could just picture you
Yeah,
like on a beach somewhere, just trying to
that
get it
one's
all out.
that one's me. That one's me. That one was like, you know, um, after Nina passed, and we had COVID for I don't know how long. It was like forever. I couldn't go
Yeah.
out. I couldn't play. I couldn't go to the goddamn store. I couldn't do anything. I was locked in my house, and the silence was deafening, and I got sick of watching Netflix, and I just
Ugh.
sat down and I wrote myself a song, autobiography, for me to hear myself, breathe. Um, the and I'm told that there's a lot of people I'm told there's a lot of people that have heard that song, and they'll go home when they're not feeling it, and they're putting it on right now, and they're listening, and they say it really helps. So I'm really glad I
Yeah.
can, yeah, help me.
It it helps. I mean, it was a song that I really took notice of. It was like there was something. It was almost like a spiritual thing. I mean, it was like it's really powerful. It's a powerful
Yeah,
song when it can touch you and make you feel better and take your mind off of all this, the way of the
absolutely.
world, so to speak. Right?
Absolutely. 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 Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
mean,
with each song, is that what you're doing? I mean, I know there's different moments and as far as songwriting. What was
a
your
change
take
with
on?
the single, the first single, A
Yeah,
Change Would Do Me Good, that went to number one over the Netherlands, by the
awesome.
way. It was number one uh, Easter week, and it just dropped to number four, but it's been staying there for a while. A Change Would Do Me Good is another kind of thing that I wrote for me. You know, lounging
Right,
in the Barker 5 days a week, my lows are multiplying, and my groove has sprung a leak. A change
right.
would do
That's
me
good.
good. Yeah,
It's really good. It's
yeah.
really it's a catchy song too. I like the way it flows too. It's but and like I said, each song on there has something to it that really stands out. Um and especially like I said, the horns. I'm loving the horns, which you've got some great players on there. You got the guitar players and the bass players and drums, professionals,
Oh yeah.
of course, that you mentioned some earlier. And man, they can play. It really adds to your sound when you got some guys that know what they do, what they're doing.
Yeah, it's really it's because I trust Lawrence and Tony so much that Lawrence co-produced this album with Tony, and I trust them so much. And I would say, you know, who do you think should play bass on this one? And Lawrence would say, oh, let's get Ricky Cortez, or they would say, "Oh, Hutch Hutchinson, let's get Hutch." And Hutch has been playing with Bonnie Raitt for 30 years, So we'd send it to Hutch, and he would be in the tour bus, laying it down, or in his hotel room, laying it down on his laptop, and then send it back, And so, that's the way we did that. Um, Lenny Castro, the percussionist with Toto, um, he did all the Fresh Bear
Yes, sir.
tracks, and so, God, we're gonna have to have him, because he's just a month, and we send him the track, and that was really good. I like
Awesome.
doing that. I liked that.
That's that had to be cool experiences. And so I bet you had a big smile on your face when you heard all the final mixes and everything, and you heard it all put together. I bet you sat back and just smiled, right,
Oh
with that
yeah.
sound.
Yeah. JJ Blair, who is just a amazing engineer and an amazing mixing engineer. Um, he has, we go to his house that has his own studio in it. And, I was listening to just the way, when we were tracking, the way he would just play, his playbacks were almost mixes, and we're so close.
Wow.
And I'd say, wow, that's the way I want it to sound. I'd look at Tony and Lawrence, and he'd say, yeah. And that's why JJ's been mixing he mixed Red Harvest. He mixed One Day at a Time. I don't know if you ever heard that one. That was one I did with the
Oh yeah,
guys,
yeah.
as well as Mark Foster from Foster the People.
Cool.
And he mixed all that stuff, and he was great. And all right, he sent me the track. Guys would send me the tracks. I'd listen on my phone. It sounded so good on my phone, and then I'd listen on my laptop, and then I put it in headphones, and I went, "Oh,
Headphones are the
this
best.
is real ear candy," And I go down in my
Man.
car in the garage, and I put it in the car, and I went, "If it sounds good on the phone, and it sounds really good on your laptop, and it sounds amazing in your car, or this, And the only thing I would say to him is, I'd say, there's a line on the second verse that says this, and there's a word that I'm kind of not getting. Can you just give it a little goose?" Yeah, that was about it. That was pretty amazing. Don't touch anything.
Right.
Leave it alone.
You're right. Don't move.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they add so much to the sound, man. That's when you hear every little detail with the headphones, you can hear like with the drums, the cymbals and the hi-hat and the bass, the low end and the way it hits
who
together.
taught me to listen? Who taught me to listen with headphones?
Who's that?
Jim Ladd. Do you remember the DJ that just passed away?
Mm-hmm.
That's why his name is
Yep.
on the record. It's down there thanks to Helene and Jim Ladd, because Jim Ladd, when he was on an LA radio station on Saturday nights or something, he'd have like an hour or two, and it was just headphone. It was the head on the radio, just the headphone. You put on your headphones, you got really comfortable, and he'd play the stuff that he wanted you to hear with your headphones. And
Sure.
that's how I learned to start listening with headphones as well. So
Right.
I miss you, Jim. I love you. You were about the best DJ I ever knew.
He's right though with the headphones. I mean, there's a flat sound, especially like with a phone. There's a flat sound. Even a stereo is cool, but with headphones, you get the full sound. You get the bass and the drums and you can hear every little clink and clank. You can hear it all together. You can't do that with anything else. It's got to be the headphone for me anyway.
Absolutely.
It's got to be. And,
yeah, this is a really good record with headphones.
I was listening on my phone, but I'm gonna go back and listen through some headphones because I got to hear all that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna hear some really great stuff. I'm really enjoying this conversation, by the way. I will tell you that I'm writing the next album as we speak. And
awesome.
Yeah. And every album, I mean, you should listen to Fresh Bear Tracks, please, if you have a chance. The one that came before this.
I'm not sure I was going to.
Yeah, you got to listen to that.
I think I heard a couple.
Because the horns that you like, there's a lot of them in the first album.
Oh man!
So every album, I kind of try to want to do something that's not extremely different, but different. So that it's a different. You go into a different room in a home. You go into a different, city or town. The The next album is going to be called The Book of Secrets. The Book of Secrets. And every song is going to be a chapter in the book. And I have started writing, and I've got about half of it, or maybe almost 2/3 finished of the songs. And I'll tell you, like the first couple of songs are going to be, The Book of Secrets is going to be the ballad of J.D. Salinger, who is the guy that wrote Catcher in the Rye, who
Right.
had a lot of secrets in his life, if you've ever followed his life or know
I,
anything about J.D. Salinger.
yes,
Um,
in the book too.
exactly. And
Yeah.
like the next song, the next chapter, chapter 2 is maybe No Reservations. It's going to be Anthony Bourdain's song.
Right.
And then, and then I have,
Cool.
other ones of people I want to acknowledge, or that The Flight of Bebo. He's the guy that stole the airplane up in Seattle, Tacoma, 4 or 5 years ago. And then,
Right. I remember that.
yeah, and then crashed it into an island, committed
Right.
suicide, unfortunately, like
Right.
Anthony Bourdain. And so his story has to be told. And so it's going to be that kind of stuff. And
That's cool.
yeah, it's a good
That's
concept.
that's like what I talked to John McEwen, who has an album out that is similar to that, where there's stories and he's kind of telling stories. It's about real things. That's really interesting. I
Yeah,
really do like that. That's a good concept.
I'm doing well. I got a song on there. If I put it on the album, it's going to be about, oh man, it's 11 pages long and maybe 18 minutes. And it starts in 1951 in Homestead, Florida, and it ends in 2017. And it's all about a guy. I call the song Henry, the greatest show on earth. And Henry is a runaway at 10 years old in 1951, gets on a train in Florida. He has enough money to get him off the train the next morning. And when he steps off the train, a couple of elephants walk by him, and he looks across the street and he sees a sign that says, Winter Home of the Greatest Show on Earth, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus. And he joins the circus, and he's a runaway. And the woman
Right.
that sees him first is the cook. And she says, Come on, I saw you get off the train and you're probably hungry, aren't you? And he says, Yes, ma'am. She says, Well, I want to feed you. And he says, Thank you, ma'am. And he goes over and she says, But when I finish feeding you, you got to help me clean up. She says, What's your name? And his real name is Travis Dupree. Okay. That's his real name. He says, I can't tell you, ma'am. She goes, Why? He says, I just can't tell you. I don't want to go back. No, he doesn't say that. He says, I just can't tell you. And she says, All right, we're going to call you Henry. And he said, Well, why are you going to call me Henry? She says, Because in the circus, we speak in code. And Henry is the code for runaway. So
Wow.
that was it. So we follow Henry, Travis. We follow Henry from that moment on till 2017, which is the last show. It's true, the last show of Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus. And his life is he's retired. He's finished, and he gets back on a train to go back to Florida where he grew up.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I'm writing that. It's 11 pages long. I finished the lyrics, and I
That's
got
cool.
most of the
Wow.
music done. And a guy I know called Chuck Lorre, who's a big TV producer, he's got a bunch of network shows. And I told him the story, and he said, "Whoa, that's an animation. That's a great
It
animation."
sounds like
Yeah. So
it
that'll
sounds like it. Yeah.
that'll either be in the Book of Secrets or it won't. But I'm not going to stop writing. That's all I do. Just
Well,
write and write.
that's what's cool about songwriting too. Because if you're like me, because when I was younger, my first love I think was like writing short stories, and with that idea, you gave a. It's almost like that painting on the wall back there. That's what I love too. There's a blank piece of paper, a song without music and words. It's just blank air, but you're putting life to it. You're painting. You're putting life to the paper. When you got a blank piece of paper, and now you're writing a story. Man, I love that. And to create that, and my eyes are probably got big when you were talking about that, because I like stories that were true, but you kind of make it into your own. You paint a picture of it. Now, some other
Well,
guy might have painted a different.
I put some of my experiences in to make the tale. You know, I'm not looking to invent a character. Some of the people I write about are some of the things that have actually happened to me, or that I do know, as you know, and it's authentic, it's genuine. The guy that inspired me the most to become a songwriter, I will tell you, was John Prine. And I saw John Prine in like 1970 or 71 in a bar that I used to hang out in New York City. He came in with his manager, Al Bonetta, and another singer-songwriter called Steve Goodman. And they both walked in. Al was managing the both of them. And it was open mic night. That's why I was hanging out there, because I wanted to get up and play. I had been learning some things from Odetta, who was a folk singer, black folk singer. I would show her how to play a little piano. She'd say, "Sing it this way," and I wanted to try it out, And I got discovered by Richie Havens. Do you remember Richie Havens at all?
Yes. Yes, I do.
He was the first. He was the first entertainer at Woodstock, the first act on at Woodstock.
Right.
Yeah, he discovered me there, and I played on his album. I didn't even have the name T-Bear yet. I used my real name, Gerstein, on his album. So, but I was there, and Al walks in with these two guys, and he said to the MC David, he said, "We're going to get these two guys up. Want you to hear this, especially this guy that I just signed, who just got signed at Warner's or something. He's all right." So John Prine walks up, he sits down, he gets ready to play, and he starts playing that John Prine kind of hypnotic, kind of rolling guitar that he did, that just drew you in. Yeah. And then the voice. And then the voice. But more than the voice, it was the words. "I am an old woman,
the words
named after my mother." Yeah. What? "Make me an angel flies." What?
Right.
There's a hole in daddy's arm where the money goes. "Jesus Christ died for nothing, I suppose." What?
Right. He was
hello in there. Hello in there, talking to an old person. Hello. I go, what the fuck?
Right.
This is unbelievable. This is like, I woke up. I was asleep.
Phenomenal.
All that time until this guy sang these three songs. And I'd never been the same since. Ever been the same since. There were two, that guy.
How can you be?
That guy and Leon Russell. Mad Dogs and Englishmen.
Yeah.
Slayed me.
Right. Yeah. I can hear it in your songs too, those guys.
Yeah, that's it.
Very good. I mean,
so that's why
great influence.
That's why, I wanted to become a songwriter, because I'd listen to Willie Nelson. I'd listen to Hank Williams. I'd listen to Merle Haggard. Oh my God. I would listen to, the guys, Yep. Said, oh my God, yep. What songwriters these guys are. Chris Christopherson slayed,
Oh man, love it.
And
Love
Chris
it.
Christopherson discovered John Prine. You
That's
know
so
that
crazy.
story?
That's awesome. Yeah,
Do you
what's
know the story that
I
Chris?
know some of that. Tell that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell that story.
Well, Chris Christopherson, who really went to West Point and was a military kid because his father was a general or something, and then moved, kind of went on a vacation to Nashville, caught the bug, never went back to, West Point, and worked over at a studio. And some guy came in and he says, I want you to hear my songs, who was listening to, like, it was a very big artist. I think it was Johnny Cash or somebody that was recording. And he says, I want you to hear my songs. And the guy said, well, I'll tell you what, you write me a song about that secretary across the street at that studio over there. And her name is McKee. McKee is her name. And if you write a song about her, her first name is Bobby McKee. Write a song about her. Me and Bobby McGee came up next. He wrote it. It was number one. He got a deal. Helped me make it through the
Right,
night. Coming down Sunday morning. All the
right,
he's in the
right,
Midwest. He goes into a bar and there's a guy
right.
sitting there singing. And the guy takes his break and he walks over to him and says, who are you? He says, my name's John Prine. He says, what do you do, John Prine? And John Prine says to Chris Christopherson, I'm a mailman. I'm a postal worker. He says, not anymore. And he got him a record deal.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, so cool. I love stories like that. And there's a lot of them. That's why I do stuff like this. I like to hear stories. Um, hey, here's a throwback for you because I read this in the biography. There's a song by Toby Bow called "Angel Baby" that
Oh,
you played on. I
that
did not
was,
know that.
yeah, that was Sean Delaney. Remember the guy from Kiss who did
Right,
all
that
the
was his.
Kiss stuff? He
Right,
produced Toby Bow. Look at the record. My Angel
I've
Baby.
got that album in.
Yeah.
And when I was a little kid, that was like my favorite song, and I used to sing it. My dad would sing the melody, and I would sing. Me and my brother would sing that song back in the '70s. But I love that song, and you were on it.
I was on it. Yeah, you've heard a lot of songs that I've been on. That's really funny.
Man, I have. I've got them. I've got all the albums that. Man, I was looking through them today. There was you were. Let me find this now. I took notes because I didn't want to miss anything. But
Here's one.
you were
Here's one.
Carly
I just
Simon's
came
road.
across this. You know who this is?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Of course, that's Phil Collins
Yeah.
of Genesis.
We were
Awesome.
both actors in the Miami Vice episode.
That's right. I think I remember that episode. I remember that episode. I love Miami Vice.
Yeah,
But uh, you were Carly Simon's road manager. Is that
I
what I
was.
read? How,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
And God bless Carly, because I wanted any which way I could get into the music business. And so the couple of the guys that I used to hang out with at open mic night at Dr. Generosity's, this is where we saw John Prine, um, was a guy called Jimmy Ryan. And Jimmy Ryan was a guitar player. He played with Carly for a long time, played on a lot of hit records. And Jimmy said, we're going on the road and we're looking for we're looking for a road manager, somebody that'll help us. I said, I'm your man, because I wanted to slide into the keyboard gig at some point. So that was, kidneys,
Smart.
Kidneys, right? So
Kidneys, man. Kidneys.
right.
Yeah, ice cream cone.
My book of secrets is right here. Okay. And so,
Very good.
and so I went out on the road, and I remember we fly down to Atlanta. Carly was going to do a live show in Atlanta. We're in the car, the rental car, whatever, the whole band and everybody. And the guy turns on the radio, and On Comes, it was like the first day the song was out, and it was like it went viral, literally. They didn't have that word in those days, but this was Dr. My
Right.
Eyes by Jackson Browne. I'm listening to it's not a cloud in the sky. I'm traveling with Carly Simon, who's a big star, with all my friends in Atlanta. I'm like, holy shit, I've made it. I've hit the big time. And, Dr. My Eyes and Ed Davis is playing the solo. And I'm like, it's perfect. My life is perfect. And we went out and played there, and she played St. Louis and then Chicago. And she did me a huge favor. She embarrassed me in front of like the entire crowd. And God bless her. I love Carly, but she was a little harsh to me. What happened was, I used to stay off the stage in case she needed something, water, she dropped a pick, whatever. And I walked, and it was my fault. I walked outside and I went to the front of the house mixing desk. I want to hear how it sounded there. I hadn't been out there. And I was there when she finished the song and was looking around for a water or something. And there was water there. She just couldn't find it. And she's on the mic. She says, "Where is Richard?" And I waved from like across the hall, right? And she goes, "Come on, I need a water." And I'm running, and she goes, "See Richard run, run Richard, run Richard, run Richard, run Richard, run Richard." And I'm like getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm about to shit my pants, feeling as bad as I did. And I got her the water or whatever she needed. And that tour was over, and I went, I don't want to be a road manager. No, I want to be playing keys. That's it. So she kind of did me a favor with that, making me feel like that, because I didn't ever want to feel that again.
Then I totally understand. But see what happens when some people think when things like that happen, that's the end. You just want to give up on everything. But that turned you around for something better.
Totally.
That's how life is. You can't dwell. You can't dwell on that and go, well, Carly Simon, right? Or you never would have been who you are today. That's what a story. Right. Is that's in the Book of Secrets somewhere, right?
That's
that
right.
Story. Have you told that story?
That's right. That's in the Book of Secrets.
Kidneys. The kidneys. You can say hey, goodbye. Thank you so much for all that you do. I'm going to go listen to your music and tell everybody all about it. But thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. And if Walter Trout comes through your neck of the woods, I might be playing with him. Come say hi.
I will do. Be good.
I had a great time. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Bye.
All right, bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to another interview. Richard T. Bear, what a guy. Great conversation. Check out his brand new album called The Way of the World. And remember to always keep the music real. See you next time.